Hey guys, it's the Merekat. I want to answer today probably one of my most frequently asked questions, which is quite simply, why do you talk about video games in a serious way? Now this is a really understandable question because at large our culture treats video games as either a children's toy or an addictive substance or something that just serves to create the next breed of mass killers. So, fair question. In order to understand why I do what I do, you kind of have to realize that I have not always been a gamer. In fact, I grew up in a household that video games were completely banned, along with anything remotely resembling a gun, specifically because my parents viewed video games as an addictive substance, as if my child starts playing video games, then they're obviously going to go to gambling and to drinking and to drugs. So actually my first memories of video games were when I was about 10 years old, going over to my friend's house and playing on the SNES with that stupid dog that always laughed when you missed the ducks. Good times. So the first time that I actually had a console was when I was about 13, 14, and it's this guy right here. A really old, beat up, second-hand Game Boy that in fact one of my friends bought for me. I gave him the money, he went to the second-hand store, bought the unit, gave it to me, and I hid it under my bed along with these two games, so Tetris and Donkey Kong Country. Donkey Kong Land. Oops. So instead of how I imagine normal kids were, that you would hide like pornography or like anything else you wouldn't want your parents to find underneath your bed, I spent most of my teenage years with a Game Boy under my bed, playing it at 3 o'clock in the morning when no one else was awake. So fast forward to 2013 and now I'm an adult. I'm actually working at RBC at the time. And I met two of my closest friends now and moved in with them at that period of time. And one of them, Jay, he actually found it really strange that I didn't game. Now, what you need to know about Jay is that he is a gamer. He grew up gaming, he has amazing gaming tattoos, this guy is knowledgeable on the subject. So, because he had met me at a party and determined that I was incredibly nerdy, he actually kind of quasi-made it his mission to get me to start playing video games. Now, I had at the time a laptop that could barely run a word processor, so that tells you the level of technology I was dealing with. Now, he made me buy 3 video games on Steam. Dungeons of Dreadmore, Super Meat Boy, and The Binding of Isaac. By the way, if you can get these on sale, all 3 of them are amazing video games that I've put probably far too many hours into over the past 5 or so years. But the last one was actually the reason that I started talking about video games seriously. Because The Binding of Isaac starts like this.
Isaac and his mother lived alone in a small house on a hill. Isaac kept to himself, drawing pictures and playing with his toys as his mom watched Christian broadcasts on the television. Life was simple, and they were both happy. That was until the day Isaac's mom heard a voice from above. "Your son has become corrupted by sin. He needs to be saved." "I will do my best to save him, my lord," Isaac's mother replied, rushing into Isaac's room, removing all that was evil from his life. Again the voice called to her. "Isaac's soul is still corrupt. He needs to be cut off from all that is evil in this world and confess his sins." "I will follow your instructions, Lord. I have faith in thee," Isaac's mother replied, as she locked Isaac in his room, away from the evils of the world. One last time, Isaac's mom heard the voice of God calling to her. "You've done as I've asked, but I still question your devotion to me. To prove your faith, I will ask one more thing of you." "Yes, Lord, anything," Isaac's mother begged. "To prove your love and devotion, I require a sacrifice. Your son Isaac will be this sacrifice. Go into his room and end his life as an offering to me to prove you love me above all else." "Yes, Lord," she replied, grabbing a butcher's knife from the kitchen. Isaac, watching through a crack in his door, trembled in fear. Scrambling around his room to find a hiding place, he noticed a trapdoor to the basement hidden under his rug. Without hesitation, he flung open the hatch, just as his mother burst through his door and threw himself down into the unknown depths below.
Although when I played the game there was a lot of really cool links with the Christian tradition, most notably the character designs, the inclusion of the 7 deadly sins, later game status effects, as well as the overarching 90s tele-evangelical vibe, that's not what really captured my imagination. What I found most interesting was the fact that Isaac's mother was told by God to do various things to him. First to take away his toys, then to segregate him, then to kill him, all as a test of loyalty. Now this harkens back to Genesis 22, where Abraham is told to kill his son Isaac as a show of loyalty to his God. Now, in a twist that I don't think series creator Ed McMillan really planned for, his version actually mimics the story of Genesis 22, or at least a variation on it, quite well. Now, when I was doing my undergraduate, one of my professors once mentioned that the story of Abraham and Isaac may not have actually ended the way that we commonly think of today. Now, in the story today, although Abraham takes his son, prepares him for sacrifice, he doesn't go through with it because God, in a very last-minute miracle deus ex machina type way, says, "Abraham, stop, there's a ram in the bushes, go and sacrifice this ram instead of your son instead." And Isaac, in turn, lives a long life, and the story goes on. However, it's entirely possible that at least one variation of this story saw Isaac die. Now, what basis is that set on? There is evidence in the Bible of multiple writers. And specifically, according to the documentary hypothesis theory, a link below for someone describing the entire theory itself, there were multiple authors who built upon each other and merged traditions of the same story. And this is largely based on certain word usages as well as the words used for the divine. Now, when you take into account that multiple authors may have been writing a very similar story, or redacting, or editing rather, the earlier account, it is entirely possible that Isaac died on the mountain. And interestingly, in the Binding of Isaac, one of the many endings, minor spoiler, not spoiler, is in fact that Isaac is suggested to have died. Now again, I haven't actually seen any interviews by the creator Ed McMillan stating that either in the Binding of Isaac or the Binding of Isaac Afterbirth that this was his intention, but I thought this was a really cool little link between the Judeo-Christian tradition and a video game. And one night, Jay asked me why I was pouring so many hours into this video game. I think I had owned it for about 6 months, and I had had some obscene amount of hours, which I'm not going to mention here. And I told him why. And he looked at me and went, "Not only are you a gamer, but you're a nerd." And that really stuck with me. It stuck with me the fact that you can talk about video games seriously in a way that's not necessarily news. You can talk about the effects of video games, and you can talk about the meanings that both the authors and the audience take from them. And that's kind of part of why I've been studying video games since. So I think that's going to do it for this episode. If you have any questions about my thesis, about what I do, about who I am, you can go ahead and ask them in the comments below, and I'll see you next time.